If I'm going to talk about Heavy Rain, I might have to give a few things away, but seeing how this game has multiple outcomes based on player choices, I don't think of it as giving away some of the big picture. With that said, Heavy Rain. When this game came out, people went nuts. They loved everything about it, and now I'm a huge fan myself. Some people will see this and call it one big QuickTime event or a never-ending cutscene, but that really isn't true. While there aren't a ton of cutscenes and QTEs, there are still plenty of times where the player can breathe and appreciate moving at their own pace to solve a problem. As far as story-driven games go, this one is definitely one of the strongest I've ever seen or ever played, next to The Walking Dead, of course. So, what's the premise? An ordinary father named Ethan Mars lives happily in a nice house with his wife and his two sons named Sean and Jason. But sadly, all that changes, though, when a tragedy strikes that claims the life of one of his two sons. Afterwards, many years pass, actually 2 years pass, and Ethan is now divorced, suffers from depression, but keeps his partial custody over his remaining son named Sean. One day at the park, Ethan has a blackout and wakes up to realize that Sean is nowhere to be found. He discovers that Sean has been kidnapped by the Origami Killer, a local serial killer who has a trademark of drowning his victims in rainwater and leaving their bodies with an orchid on their chest and an origami dog in their hands. Ethan receives a shoebox from the killer filled with 5 origami animals. Each tells Ethan to perform a trial to receive letters for a hangman which will tell him where Sean is being held. The major catch is that these trials push Ethan to insane limits where each trial becomes more intense than the last, and it's all just a race against time before Sean drowns. However, Ethan is not the only character you get to control in this journey. There's a private investigator named Scott Shelby, an independent journalist named Madison Page, and lastly, an FBI criminal profiler named Norman Jayden, all of which are very fun and likable characters. I especially like Norman's character. He has a fun gimmick of using airy glasses to find and analyze clues. He, like all the other characters, have different means and traits of catching the killer. Anyways, Norman puts on airy glasses, which is kind of like an artificial reality. He puts on his glasses and glove, and that sort of sets him in sort of this artificial universe where he can find and analyze his clues in a very fun, interesting way. But it comes at a price where Norman has to take a very addictive drug to diminish the effects of the airy. A big strength of this game is its characters and storytelling because they are all so identifiable, they're all memorable, they act like actual people, and you can definitely feel the intensity of a heated moment when it comes, definitely giving you a chance to connect and really develop with the characters, which is more than I can say for a lot of the other games I've played recently. I know that many critics have been against it, but I actually like the way how it gives you control over mundane tasks. It really puts you in a deeper connection with the character and really gives you a better chance to connect with them throughout the story. Even the Origami Killer himself has his backstory that's so tragically sad and yet so well written that you just can't help but to sympathize and feel sorry with him. That really brings out another strong point within the story. But the other characters, even the side characters, are all unique and share very memorable personalities that you can really get into, especially Carter Blake. My God, I just want to rip this guy's leg off and beat him to death with it. I really can't think of a polite word to describe this guy. He is just so mean and corrupt. But yet, I still think it's worthy to give kudos to building the most despicable character ever. Another major strength is its story quality and how well it's balanced. Some people complain about the slow beginning, but I actually like it because it gives you a good insight as to what the characters are like as normal people. And that's something you don't see quite often. And just when the really intense moments arrive, it really makes you appreciate them better when it comes. And let me tell you, when it comes, it really friggin' pulls you in and does not let go. I never want to put the controller down during some moments. Even when a character is constantly being attacked in other games, the effect really wears off. But I think it's best when the director, David Cage, said when he stated that they are just ordinary people who have landed in extraordinary situations. And that it really summarizes how much of a personal journey it becomes. You can decide what happens throughout the story, and you can even have some characters die. Should that happen, they just don't appear again, and they won't be around to help out another character when they need it. There are a few minor plot holes here and there, like why some characters seem to know each other despite they've never met in the game, but this really didn't bother me too much, because there were originally supposed to be a bunch of downloadable chapters called the Heavy Rain Chronicles. The overall project was terminated due to allotted time being given to the PlayStation Move adaptation, but only one got to see the light of day. It's called The Taxidermist, where Madison is going to investigate the home of a suspect named Leland White, who's you guessed it, a taxidermist. She breaks into his house since he's not home, walks around and discovers a few clues, and discovers a few dark secrets behind some closed doors. Getting to gameplay now, while it is kinda tricky to move a character around easily without them getting their face in a wall, the rest of it is pretty much smooth. There are standard QTs that require analog stick movements, and others that require many buttons to be pressed at once. That can sometimes be crazy, especially when I have to use my mouth to press a button when I run out of fingers. But there are also some that require very gentle movements of the analog stick. You'd think that would be uncommon here, but no, they actually find some really creative ways to actually utilize them. I especially love the overall message they give here. It's not an original message, but it's really represented in a new way that really becomes thought-provoking. How far are you willing to go to save someone you love? Since Cage is a father himself, I really think he has a better understanding of the emotional strength and courage that it takes to put oneself in danger to save a loved one. I mean, would you be willing to dangerously drive against highway traffic if it meant seeing your son again? That really comes out strong when Ethan Mars is put in the hot seat. This is definitely who I imagine when I think of the perfect character. He's just an everyday man who loves his son to no end, and it really makes you connect with him and understand. He exerts his comfort zone to really put himself in the line of fire. He has an obvious reason and a direct motive, and he's willing to suffer in order to accomplish his goal. I've never had such a deep emotional connection with any character before. When Ethan is playing with his kids, I felt happy watching the lighthearted atmosphere they shared. When he was scared, I felt nervous for him as I was guiding him through a tight situation. When he starts to cry, holy smokes, I was actually crying with him. I have felt for characters' feelings before, but never has it been so consistent throughout, and you really can understand just what a great father he is. He wouldn't make a very good babysitter, let's be honest, but a damn good father. There are also some serious bawl-your-eyes-out moments with this game, and anyone who's played it can tell you the same too. Make me cry over a game isn't the only reason why I respect it. It's the fact that the story and characters are so unique and presented in a whole other perspective to a point where they actually feel like real friggin' people that I can connect with. If there's any more reason to pick up this living masterpiece of a game, as if I needed any, Heavy Rain is a must-own for PS3 owners.